Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, September 16th, 2015. I am Dave Biddle. We will get to our Alex Gleitman later in the show, who's going to give you the latest on Ohio State's running back recruiting situation. But first, Ohio State released its depth chart for the Northern Illinois game, and I have a few quick takeaways. First of all, Ohio State is still using the "or" word at the quarterback position for some reason. J.T. Barrett, Cardale Jones, there's an "or" there, even though Urban Meyer said Cardale Jones is the starter. I'm not sure why they're still going with the "or" at the quarterback position when Coach Meyer has said Cardale Jones is the starter. I guess that's an indication that both guys are going to continue to play. There are 3 wide receiver positions still listed on the depth chart, just like last week, except this week Jalen Marshall is listed as a starter, along with Mike Thomas and Paris Campbell. Jalen Marshall has usurped Johnny Dixon as a starter. So Ohio State is listing 12 positions on offense. They just added an extra wide receiver. So they have the normal 11 positions plus an extra wide receiver. Not a surprise at all that Jalen Marshall got his job back. He played a lot the first game back. You knew he was going to be a starter. I also thought he looked really good as the punt returner. He got that job back right away as well. For those that don't know, this was Jalen's first strike. The coaches weren't going to punish him any further. A guy like Corey Smith has to work his way back a little bit more, still kind of buried on the depth chart. But Jalen Marshall got his job back right away, and rightfully so. At tight end, no surprise, Nick Van at the starter, Marcus Ball's the backup. But I want to know who is the third-string tight end. That's something I'm going to ask Urban Meyer next time I get a chance. Who is the third-string tight end? Is it A.J. Alexander? Is it Rashad Berry? Possibly a walk-on. Urban Meyer made the comment recently that our tight end situation is a mess, and he mentioned the fact that they've missed out on some recruits that they went after. So that tells me he's not happy with the 2 true freshmen that he has at the tight end position. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I'm curious who is the third-string tight end. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, only one change, and that is Joey Bosa is now listed as a starter over Sam Hubbard. There was no "or" like there was last week. Not a surprise. Joey came back last week, played well. Again, it was his first strike to my knowledge, just like Jalen Marshall, so the coaches weren't going to punish him any further. Good to see Joey back as a starter. Good to know that Sam Hubbard is very competent as a backup, though. No change at defensive tackle, but I think one to keep an eye on is Tommy Shutt versus Mike Hill at the one technique, the nose guard position. When I asked Larry Johnson which of the backup defensive linemen are really standing out, he couldn't get Mike Hill's name out fast enough. There was no hesitation. It was Mike Hill. I asked him why. He explained Mike Hill has lost some weight. He's a little quicker. He's stronger. Even though he's lost the weight, he's stronger. They just like where Mike Hill is at right now. You don't hear them talking up Tommy Shutt very much, so I would keep an eye on that one. Even if Tommy doesn't lose his job, I think Mike Hill is going to continue to play more and more, and it wouldn't surprise me at some point if Mike Hill does win that starting job. All right, now for the latest on George Hill and Trey Sermon, let's kick it to our Alex Gleitman.
We're going to talk about 2 players, 2 high school running backs, one in the class of 2016, one in the class of 2017. And these 2 players are going in very opposite directions. The first guy is Hubbard, running back, George Hill, 2016 prospect, committed to the Buckeyes, been committed for quite some time now. But, for the last couple of months, things have started to trend away from George Hill eventually signing with Ohio State. And I don't think there's ever been a step more toward that happening than this weekend when the senior back took a visit to Michigan State where his good friend and former teammate L.J. Scott starred in the Spartans' win over Oregon. George Hill right now, there's obviously things we know we can't say out of respect to sources and things like that. I think right now the best way to put the situation is that Ohio State is having a hard time finding a fit in terms of where does George Hill fit in. Right now, Kareem Walker is being recruited. He's being told he's the only running back in the class. Ohio State hasn't been recruiting George Hill as a running back. Originally, it was thought slot back. He may be too big for that, may not be shifty enough for that slot position, that H position at wide receiver. Does he have the hands? Does he have the speed? Is he ability to run the routes? And defensive back, is he able to flip the hips? Is he able to, come up and be physical at safety? Can he cover in space? I think those are all questions Ohio State has had for a while. I don't think they've been able to answer them, even with George, coming up for Friday Night Lights this summer. So I think right now things are kind of in flux. I think if George Hill said, you know what, Buckeyes, I understand everything that's on the table. I still want to be a Buckeye. I think they would honor the scholarship, absolutely. But, again, as I've said on the board many times, I don't think Ohio State would lose a wink of sleep if George Hill went elsewhere. He's certainly not being dropped from the class at this point. But I would say, it might not be too far in the future where the sides go 2 different ways. Moving on to more positive news, talk about Trey Sermon out of Georgia, running back. He was up at Ohio State a couple times this year, including for Friday Night Lights. other sites were saying that Trey had committed following that Friday Night Lights visit. After speaking to multiple sources, we've been told, no one, at least no one we've spoken to from the Ohio State staff side of things is aware of any silent commitment or things like that. But Ohio State does feel they're in a very good place for Trey Sermon. He's a top 50 player in the class of 2017, an outstanding back. I think the Buckeyes, they already have Todd Sibley from Akron-Hoban in the mix. I think they're going to add a second back to the class. I think Trey Sermon would be an excellent addition. The hometown team, Georgia, right now, Trey even told 24/7 Sports that they're kind of trailing right now. Ohio State, Tennessee, Auburn's thought to be a player. But right now the Buckeyes are in a good spot. And, Bill Kurlick, via Rusty Manziel of our Georgia site, broke the news that the Buckeyes are working on a date for Urban Meyer to come down and see Trey Sermon in person. I think little things like that just show you how important Sermon is to the class. And I think it will reciprocate in terms of interest. And right now, I put my crystal ball in for Trey Sermon to Ohio State based on what I'm hearing there. I don't think he's committed right now, but, if things continue to go the way they are, I could see it potentially happening down the road.
Thank you, Alex. We'll see what happens with George Hill, but that's very good news on Trey Sermon. Couple quick things before I finish the show. We will interview Urban Meyer tonight after practice around 6:30. We're also going to interview a few players after practice, so look for a story and video on what Coach Meyer has to say, and look for stories and bulletin videos on what the players have to say. We'll be posting stuff until about 10 o'clock tonight, maybe 11 p.m., so keep it locked to Bucknuts. Ohio State is a 34.5-point favorite over Northern Illinois this Saturday. The Huskies are a good team. They're 2-0. We know the MAC is a good conference. The MAC is always somewhat strong. This year I think it's really strong. You have Toledo beating Arkansas, Bowling Green absolutely crushing Maryland, and Northern Illinois is supposed to be one of the best teams in the MAC. So 34.5 points, that's going to be tough to cover that spread, but I think the Buckeyes will be locked and loaded this week. I think they're going to barely cover. I have them winning by 35 points. My final score prediction is 52-17 Buckeyes, so I have them covering by the narrowest of margins there, 0.5 points. But Northern Illinois is a tough team. They are 2-0, and I don't think this is going to be an easy game. I just think Ohio State is really, really good. And after what happened last week with the sluggish performance, I think they're going to come into this one ready to play. Thanks again to our Alex Gleitman, and thanks to you for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Play that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.